Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Chai Time with the Shaggy Chef, the one and only Meherwan Irani. But it's actually 6 o'clock and not quite chai time. We had to run a little bit late today, so instead of chai, I have.
Woo! What time is it? Bourbon
It's
time.
6 o'clock. It's bourbon time. This is a beautiful cask 46 by Maker's Mark. Which on my trip to their distillery, back in the good old days where we could actually go somewhere and do something, they were kind enough to give me a beautiful, wonderful tour of their distillery and send me home this delicious bottle of bourbon. So today we're going to have all kinds of fun. If you think I get hopped up in chai, we can see what happens
watch out.
with bourbon. Chai Funny Mom behind the wheel.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, today we're going to be making arguably one of the two most iconic pav dishes that come directly from Mumbai, Pav Bhaji. The other pav being vada pav, and people can argue back and forth between Camp vada pav and Camp Pav Bhaji, but there's no argument. Both of them are incredible, both of them are delicious. They're the best application of pav ever invented when it comes to street food, and both of them owe their origin story to Mumbai. In fact, Pav Bhaji owes a little bit of its origin story to old Abe Lincoln.
What?
And we're going to talk about that a little bit as we cook the food today. So I'm going to explain what Pav Bhaji is. I'm going to tell you what the history is, but I need to get cooking because this one's going to take a little bit longer than the average one that we do. So let's get going. I'm going to get my onion sizzling. Number one ingredient in Pav Bhaji is maska, butter. Not ghee, butter. Lots of butter. So we're going to be frying onions in butter today, not in ghee. I'm going to explain why butter as we get into it, but let's get this butter in there and get it going. And as soon as that's melted, I'm going to throw my onions in, and we're going to talk about how to make it. So, ingredients: onions. I got about 1.5 cups of onions, healthy 1.5 cups of onions. I got bell peppers, roughly about, looks like about 3/4 cup of bell peppers. These are rough measurements because we're making a vegetable hash. So, I've got some cilantro stems, optional, but I pulled some cilantro aside for garnish. And I cut the stems off, and I'm going to add the stems to this because it's a vegetable hash, and why not use cilantro stems? All the proponents of stem-to-table cooking will appreciate this. And the vegetable hash. In this pot over here, I've boiled potatoes, carrots, and cauliflower. And they've just been boiled. That's literally it. Boil them until they're soft and mushy, as you can see. And that's it. I mean, you can do it in an Instapot. You can just stick them in water. How much? I got about 2 large potatoes, 1 large carrot, and about 1/2 head of cauliflower. I'd say all said and done, you've got about 2 cups of vegetables, of boiled vegetables in there. And in addition to that, we're also going to add tomatoes, chilies, lime juice, and some spices. So, recipe will be online. Enough talking. Let's start frying.
So wait, what happened to the cilantro leaves off of the cilantro stems?
I'm saving them for my garnish.
Oh, okay.
That's why I got the cilantro stems. And I know you like me having stuff prepped so that this video doesn't take forever. Let's get the onions going right off the bat.
Is this high heat?
This is on high heat. Yeah, I'm frying these onions. And once they get going, I'll of course turn the heat down. But I put in, and the butter, it's about 4 tablespoons of butter to about 2 cups of onions. And we may add some oil as we go, and we may add some more butter as we go. This whole dish is dependent on using lots of butter to give this dish an absolutely buttery, wonderful, creamy taste. And when you understand the origin story of Pav Bhaji, you'll understand why it's being cooked with butter instead of oil or ghee, and why it's a vegetable hash, and why we're using pav instead of rotis or anything to mop this up with. So just so everybody understands, pav is the Indian word for a particular style of bread that the Portuguese, we believe, well, actually not we believe, we know, brought to India. It was probably one of the first yeasty breads of India, and it looks like a small, actually like a large Hawaiian sweet roll. And they're usually baked in sort of like batches of 6 at a time when you tear them out. And the Portuguese probably bought this when they arrived in India. Legend has it that, was it Franciscan Jesuit monks that came from Portugal were also bakers, and they started baking in Goa. And then as Goans made their way up to Bombay, merchants, they bought this, the pav with them to Bombay and started making in Bombay. And then enterprising Parsis, my people, started also bakeries, and they also make a lot of pav. And it became sort of the bread of choice for street food because unlike a roti that's got to be sort of rolled out and done fresh, pav can be made just like bread and then sold to the street vendors who then in turn butter them up, griddle them, and serve them with all kinds of wonderful dishes. And And that's sort of how the story of Pav came to be. So there's actually, as my good friend Vish calls it, a Pav belt in India, where you can find the most
No way.
the most sort of predomination of Pav sold in India. So my onions are in. I'm gonna hit a little salt. This butter was salted. You could use salted butter, unsalted butter. Just be aware of how much salt you're adding if you're using salted butter. All right. While the onions are going, let's add one of the first spices. It's gonna be the only whole spice that I put in this, and it is where is it? Fennel seed. So, how much fennel seed? Oh my God, people complain when I don't use measurements. So for about this much, I'm gonna put a healthy heaping teaspoon of fennel seeds. Probably the first time you guys have seen me cooking with fennel seeds, and if you haven't cooked or used or chewed on fennel seeds before, they're sort of a more grassy, a sweeter version of the bulb, which most people in Western cooking are used to. Yeah, why don't you show people our good fennel seed over there?
Here's that's the tin. That's what they look
Oh my
like.
God.
If you've ever had fennel seed candy at Chai Pani,
There you go. You know
after
exactly
your
what that
meal.
is. And already I can smell the fennel seed releasing its aroma, and it's got that anisey scent to it that fennel is known for. But in the seed form, it's just beautiful. Works wonderfully with food. Second thing in, as soon as the onions start to soften, I'm going to throw the bell peppers in because I want those to soften too. The bell peppers in, and we're going to sort of soften and cook them the way we do the onions. And give it a stir for a few minutes, and I'm still on high heat right now because nothing's burning or scorching. And we're going to also add at this point some ginger garlic paste. And we're going to add a heaping tablespoon of ginger garlic paste. Here's my ginger garlic paste that I made from the last time I had the ginger garlic lesson.
Why does that look green?
The vinegar that I put in it reacted with the ginger and the garlic to give it a slightly greenish hue, but it absolutely smells fresh, does not affect the taste.
Wow, I can smell it over
does not
here.
affect the flavor. It's still as vibrant and pungent. Because remember,
It
we
is
made a big
pungent.
batch, and
Yeah.
we showed everybody how to save it and store it. So that's why I put a little bit of vinegar in it. Normally I wouldn't put vinegar in it when I'm making ginger garlic paste because I wouldn't be trying to preserve it. Ginger garlic paste in. And all of this goodness is going to saute and caramelize. Actually, I'm going to go a heaping tablespoon and a half of ginger garlic paste. You know what? Let's call it 2 tablespoons.
Whoa.
Whoa! And it's ginger and garlic. It's not going to be bad.
Love
It's
it.
going to be delicious. It's going to be delicious. So, change that. 2 tablespoons of ginger garlic paste. And if you guys need to know how to make ginger garlic paste, please go to my previous Chai Time video that shows you how to make ginger garlic paste in, what is it, 30 seconds, honey?
It was fast.
It was fast. Well, there's
I
equal
don't
parts
know,
peeled
quite-
ginger and peeled garlic.
Not quite
Pureed
30
together.
seconds, but yeah, it was a quick one.
Well, that's because I do all this talking.
That's true. You do all this talking.
Pinch more salt. Let's get that going. A little more bourbon.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. All right. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put my... Well, I'm going to save the cilantro stems actually for a later phase, but I'm going to put the green chili in also real quick. Just a small green chili. There's no red chilies in here because we want also the flavor. Oh, by the way, can I show off my Father's Day gift that I finally
Fancy.
unboxed? It's my man knife, but I feel like I should go out and kill a bear with this or something.
It seriously looks like you're going to do that.
But yeah, the company's called, what is it again? Kulina. And I saw this online and it just looked amazing. It reminded me a lot of sort of the type of knives, rustic knives I remember in India.
Yeah.
You'll see butchers and villagers cutting it, and this thing is incredibly sharp. Incredibly. Okay. And good God, look at that thing. It is literally making mincemeat out of this green chili. Oh my God, look at this. It's going to be my new favorite cutting knife, honey.
Is this the first time you've cooked with it?
Yeah, first time I
Yes.
cut and cook with it. And it also works as a scraper.
Oh.
So, all right, chili's in. Quite often you guys see me knock the chilies out, take the seeds out because of and the pith out to cut back on the heat, but we're putting a lot of vegetable mash in here, so the heat from the chilies is not going to affect it too much. All right, going to keep sauteing these bad boys on high heat until the ginger and garlic start to caramelize and the onions start to brown. You do not want to skip or skimp on this phase. The last thing you want is the taste of raw ginger and raw garlic in your mouth. You want it to taste fantastic. All right, while that's happening,
Where did you get the knife? What's the name of it?
the name of it is...
I bought it for you. I should know.
Coolina. I don't know where I saw it. I just saw it online. There was an ad for it. It just looks so amazing.
I'm showing them this is the, look at this crazy,
The sheath.
this sheath. Well, you can't see it because there's no contrast. There we go. Kulina, that's the name of it.
Okay, so while this is happening, let's talk a little bit about where Pav Bhaji came from and the whole connection with Abe Lincoln and the Civil War. So, this is essentially was invented as a street food. During the American Civil War and afterwards, cotton production of the South was absolutely decimated. But the world still needed cotton, so they turned to other sources of cotton, and the cotton merchants in India saw a boom. Many of them are Parsis. They lived in an area called Parel. Until today in Mumbai. Until today in Mumbai, many of these mills still operate in Lower Parel and in those Parsi enclaves in Mumbai, or back then what was known as Bombay. So the mills started running literally 24 hours a day to keep up with the demand for cotton that the rest of the world was looking to cotton-producing countries, because the American South was no longer cranking out cotton like it used to due to the Civil War. And to feed these workers around the clock now, street vendors popped up outside of these cotton mills. And they were trying to put, basically, traditionally the daytime mill worker would bring a tiffin from home. And tiffin would be his rice, his dal, his roti, his sabji. And sabji in India means vegetables, and it could be a simple potato masala or like a little beans or a little vegetable dish. But that his wife, would cook for him at home and send him off to work with, back in 1863 to 65, somewhere in those late 1800s. And these street vendors essentially sprung up to feed the nighttime workers, because obviously they were not coming with a tiffin. And so they essentially, on a large griddle, started mashing together cheap vegetables, potatoes, onions, cauliflower, carrots, bell peppers, tomatoes, and mixing it with a lot of masala to make this rich, tangy, almost like a vegetable hash that was easy to eat as one meal with a spoon. And to mop it up, instead of roti, which somebody would have to roll out by hand, and you can't, which would have taken forever, and the street vendors didn't have obviously the room to do that, or even quite possibly the technique to make rotis on the street, they turned to pav, this relatively new introduction to India that the Portuguese had bought, that had now made its way up to Mumbai. So the bakeries would run at night making fresh pav, and these street vendors would buy the fresh pav, slather it with butter, because in their mind, sort of traditionally, butter and bread sort of went together, and created this dish essentially out of thin air, which is now, in my mind, one of the most iconic dishes of Bombay. Everybody loves Pav Bhaji, and I just love the story and how there's a connection between the American South, the Civil War, and the cotton mills of India, and this dish being invented. Now, of course, I've heard probably 6 variations of this story and 6 origins of Pav Bhaji, and all these things there sometimes get lost to history. But this one, to me, seems the most, sort of the most realistic scenario of probably how Pav Bhaji got invented. Because India, if you've ever been there, the one thing you'll know that is a country where necessity is the mother of invention. Mother India is invention. It's jugaad. We figure it out. We make it work. This is what we do. All right. So this is all sautéing away, and once this is getting a little bit more caramelized, I'm going to add the rest of our spices to it. So now this dish in India is made on a tawa, and a tawa is a large, round, heavy metal, almost like a cast iron plate lit by probably a charcoal brazier back in the day, and now probably in a gas or propane tank cylinder. And the sound of a Pav Bhajiwalla is very distinctive, because as they start sautéing with butter, their onions, and their bell peppers, and start adding masalas, once the boiled potatoes and carrots and bell peppers or whatever else they got and cauliflower starts going in, with a masher, they start mashing the vegetables on the tawa to turn it into basically, almost like a hash, like a to all the easier to mop it up with the bread. So you got this sort of tangy, buttery, rich, and my God, the slabs of butter that go on a Pav Bhaji. And honestly, butter in India is such a luxury and such a Western thing. I can only imagine that there was some idea that you're fueling people, to work a long night shift. So let's just load it up with as much, fat and calories as they could. And butter was probably the way they did it. Because, and the dishes just never cooked with ghee, always with butter.
Hey, speaking of the pav, Cheety, hi Cheety.
Cheety! Hi, you finally made it!
She made it!
No more tennis today, huh? See? My 6 o'clock slot works for Cheety.
She's asking an interesting question. Do the Parsi pav have eggs in the dough?
I have no
Do you
idea,
know?
Judy. I am the world's most uninformed bread and baking guy. I know the history of things. You asked me for a recipe. Of a
Wrong
pav?
category.
Wrong category.
Where's
of pav.
Vish when we need
Yeah,
him?
where's Vish when you need him?
Our encyclopedia brain.
Exactly. He could probably answer that question for you for the difference between Parsi pav and regular pav. Interestingly, here's the thing. The pav at the time, it was just India's white bread. That's what was available. You could eat this thing with Wonder Bread and it probably tastes as delicious. In fact, I'm not making this up. I didn't have pav, obviously, and I didn't have time to go running over to the grocery store to buy a Hawaiian sweet roll or something that looked like pav. You're not going to believe what I got. I got a soft brioche hot dog bun that I cut in half, and that's going to be our pav today. Hey, man, jugaad.
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Or pandemic cooking, whatever you want to call it.
Right. The dish is delicious with soft white bread. That's basically what we're saying over here. In fact, this thing's amazing because I love it not just hot and warm and buttery, but also cold the next day. Make some sourdough toast, put a little butter in the sourdough toast,
Yeah.
and then hot toast, and then spread the cold Pav Bhaji on it, and hit it with onions and little lime juice. Avocado toast, kiss my ass. You would love the Pav Bhaji.
What kind of pav does Chaipani use for their pav
We buy
bhaji?
actual authentic pav. We have our pav guy in
Pawwalla.
Atlanta, our Spicewalla in Atlanta, who supplies us pav. India Italian bakery. Go figure.
Interesting.
It makes no sense to anybody, but that's the name of it. All right, time for my little cilantro to go in because the onions, as you can see, are cooked down and are almost caramelized. And we get the real deal. Of course, right now in the pandemic, I don't know what they're doing, but hey, we shall overcome.
Oh, you mean the street vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm worried about them.
I'm worried about anything they can do. Okay, guys. So far you've seen me saute onions, bell peppers, green chilies, in butter. The only whole spice in there has been fennel seed, and now it's time to add my powdered spices. So let's go for it. So cumin and coriander, ground and roasted, but I have a blend because I've used this so often. What? You want me to stop moving it?
Yes, I'm hold it still. Thank you.
Okay. It's all this is. Dana is coriander seed. Jeera is cumin seed. They've both been ground and then roasted and then ground into a powder. And I use this combination so frequently, as do many Indians, that we actually just went ahead and blended the two of them together. So that way I'm not measuring out the cumin, measuring out the
Sweet.
coriander. It's just all in one.
And it's like a chunky.
Yeah, and it's a chunky coarse grind, which is what I really like. I don't like the talcum powder like spices. I like them to have a little texture, kind of like kosher salt. I think most chefs will appreciate that, and it works well here. So I'm going to put heaping 2 teaspoons of that. Because remember, 1 teaspoon cumin, 1 teaspoon coriander, so 2 teaspoons of the combination together. All right, that's in, and that's you can smell that almost immediately, and you can pretty much put all your spices in right now. I've talked about this before. Whole spices go in early, powdered spices go in later, and that's what we're doing now. Second thing I'm going to put in there, we already did fennel seed. Turmeric. Let's get some turmeric in there. Turmeric, I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of turmeric. A little bit goes a long way. Healthy half a teaspoon. There we go. Okay, that's in. I'm going to put in now some Kashmiri chili powder. Any chili powder works, but as you guys know, I'm a big aficionado of Kashmiri chili powder. And oh, Rosie's back. Hey, girl, come here. Rosie, come say hi to Mom. Hi.
She's done her
There
photo.
she is.
Rosie photo bomb for the day.
Rosie, come here. Sit. Hi, my girl. Say hello.
Quarantine cooking shows
Cooking
with
shows.
dogs.
All right. So those are in. Okay, girl.
Sorry, everybody. I think
Rosie, come here.
her nemesis is walking by.
Come here. Sit. Sit. Stay. All right, guys. Stay. All right.
This will pass.
This too will pass. Okay, guys. So last thing over here. Rosie, you want a treat? That got her coming. All right, sit down. And now we're going to put in next to our tomatoes. Now here's the deal, guys. The tomato in India, heaping piles of fresh tomatoes go in, but then the tomatoes are mashed. And we're not going to do that because we're cooking at home and I want to make your life easier. So I'm going to use crushed tomatoes, and you guys have heard me extol the virtues of crushed tomatoes in the past. But because I really want to show off my fancy new knife, I'm going to cut 1 tomato.
Tomato.
1 tomato. Rosie, come here, girl. Oh my God, look at this thing.
He doesn't believe you
it's
anymore
cutting
about
it
the treat.
like butter.
Gargantuan knife.
Gargantuan knife like butter.
It does remind me of the knives you see them using
In India? Yeah.
That sort of rustic butcher knife.
Exactly. I feel like I should be slaughtering a goat with this right now, honey.
Yeah, that's what it looks like it's meant for.
All right, let's get our tomatoes.
Not your delicate little vegetarian meal.
All right, and what I love about this is it also acts as a scraper. All right, tomatoes in. So what we're building here is the flavor base that these vegetables are gonna basically absorb into them, right? All of this spices and the onions and the butter, once the vegetables go in there, it's gonna hit it all.
These vegetables.
Yeah, and they're just basically boiled vegetables, so that from this point forward, once the vegetables go in, it cooks pretty quickly. All right, while that's happening, my senses are saying, honey, a little bit more turmeric. Just a touch more turmeric. Exact measurements will be online. Don't worry. There we go. I mean, literally a dab. So think of it as a heaping half a teaspoon of turmeric. All right. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and put in the crushed tomatoes. So the last time I used tomatoes, I used about a half a can. It was a large can. And the rest of it, the best way to save it is to freeze it. So I just threw it in a Ziploc bag and threw it in the freezer. And then today before the show, about an hour early, I pulled it out and I let it just defrost in water. And that's the easiest way to not waste those tomatoes if you've only used half a can. So this is probably a cup and a half of crushed tomatoes. And you guys have heard me talk about crushed tomatoes. You want just a nice brand, get an organic brand if you can. If you can't, get a high quality brand. And you want just pure crushed tomatoes. You don't want
no seasoning or...
Yeah, no seasoning, no basil, no salt, no sugar. You're not looking for tomato sauce. And you'll also sometimes be called pureed tomatoes. Same thing, no problem. Crushed and pureed is the same. Just stay away from labels that say tomato sauce. And the best thing to do is just look at the back of the label, and it'll tell you whether there's any sugar or salt. A little bit of citric acid is okay. Sometimes they add citric acid to crushed tomatoes just to make them a little. And the reason I love crushed tomatoes is because they're ripe and tangy, and they add that tanginess that you want in this particular dish. And also, the best benefit, they're already crushed. You don't have to sit there and mash them away. Less work. Okay, guys, and you can see how there's a base that's formed here. Like we call this a masala, and it's a wet masala. And I know you guys are saying, well, hang on, isn't like garam masala? So yeah, masalas are mixtures of things. Garam masala is a mixture of spices. This is a wet masala, which is a mixture of kind of like a mirepoix meets the spices. So, all right, you guys, while that's happening, we want to cook these tomatoes down and get them rich and glossy and thick. And my mom always says that when you see the oil separating around the edges is when you know the tomatoes are done. We're essentially evaporating off the water from the tomatoes here and condensing the tomatoes, and they'll be richer and absorb all the flavors from the spices and onions in there. While that's happening, let us finish the mashing process.
Chiti, I wish you could smell this Pav Bhaji. Wait, how many hours away are you? If you got in the car and drove here now, you could have some for a late dinner. Just file that. We got bourbon.
I got Pav Bhaji. I will actually go get real pav for you, Chidi, if you come. And we even got a little glade in the woods where all the guests can pee.
I don't think you want to advertise that reality, honey.
Okay, guys. So I'm mashing the vegetables right now. When I say the vegetables, it really starches. You stop to think about it. The only thing that might fall in the category of not being a starch is the carrots, but still, this can be anything, guys. I mean, I'm assuming in India, potatoes are obviously cheap, cauliflower was cheap, carrots are cheap. But even if all you have is potatoes, this dish should still be amazing. Go right in your vegetable drawer, find anything that's on the starchy side, and go ahead and boil it, cut it up, cube it, boil it in salted water, and mash it up, and you'll be making yourself some Pav Bhaji.
Did you use those sprouting carrots that were?
Yep, the carrots are already starting to sprout. They've been that long sitting there and you can mash this as smooth as you want or as chunky as you want. It's your masher. You have fun with it. Do whatever you want. I kind of like a chunky style Pav Bhaji. And so I'm going to set up with a zero mash. Just want to make sure I get the carrots. I mean, if you got a sweet potato, hell, throw that in there too. You got squash of any type, throw that in there too. But Now, like I said, in India, this would be happening directly on the tawa, directly on the cooking surface.
The
It would
mashing.
be already in there, and they'd be mashing, cooking, mashing, cooking, and mashing, cooking.
Is this the
As they go.
combo of starches and vegetables that Chai Pani uses in their Pav Bhaji?
Yes, exactly. We use cauliflower, potato, and carrot. Gajar. And now, the big difference also, when this is being made in India, is that quite often they're making it to order. So, for example, if I'm the only person that works up with the Pav Bhaji guy, he might just make one helping, one serving for me, because you got to make it fresh, you got to serve it fresh. So it goes a lot faster than this. If you're wondering, like, wait, what street vendor is going to take this much time to do it? Because this is enough to feed 6 or 8 people, right? And he's just making it for one, and that tava is blazing hot, so it goes very quickly. The tomatoes cook quickly, the vegetables smash quickly, and then of course, if you had a small crowd, then he would just sort of count up how many orders and just go ahead and make it. But the idea is, you make it, you serve it. There's none's going to be kept aside. So
You have so many interesting questions, but this one I want to grab before it
Yes.
disappears. Somebody from Dubai just joined us. Actually set an
Welcome.
alarm to
Welcome.
join you live
Welcome,
today.
welcome,
What an
welcome.
honor.
Yeah.
Would you recommend boiling the vegetables separately or cooking them in the pan with the masala? So I think he
Cooking
missed that
this-
part, or she missed
yeah.
that part.
Cook the vegetables, boil them separately. That makes life so much easier, and it'll make the Pav Bhaji part go much quicker. So yeah, and boiling is as easy as just peel, throw in a pot of salted water. That way, they're salted, so you don't have to.
But no other blooming spices or anything else was in there.
Nothing
Okay.
else, just that.
Can you freeze leftover bhaji?
Yes, it freezes fantastic. We actually, in the early days of Chai Pani, used to try to make giant batches and freeze them, but then we kindly basically got to the point where we're selling so much of it that we just make pots of it every day. Good question.
Pav Bhaji, somebody else was asking what we're
Yeah.
making. I guess your tag disappeared.
All right, guys. So the tomato spicy zingy portion of this is almost done, and then we add this. And there's one essential ingredient that's going to bring this whole thing together at the end of it, and that is
Dun dun
dun,
dun.
dun, chaat masala. And what chaat masala is it's a blend of black rock salt powdered and amchur, which is dried green mango powder. Those two are the primary components of chaat masala, which give it an insane tanginess because of the dried mango powder, and an insane funkiness because of black rock salt, which has almost a sulfuric smell to it if it really hits you hard. There's other stuff in chaat masala, but those two things are a defining characteristic of most street food in India, from bhel puri to samosa chaat to, you name your street food of India, chances are there's some chaat masala on it. In fact, the very word chaat, that street food, comes from chaat masala. And the word chaat means to lick, because this food, the tanginess literally makes you want to lick your fingers. It's finger licking good street food.
And you will be posting the recipe after you're live, and they'll find it on spicewalla.com.
Exactly. Yes. The good folks at Spicewalla will make sure that it's up, if not immediately after the show, within 30 minutes to an hour afterwards. So this is probably blazing hot, but I still want to taste it to see if I've got my spices and salt and all that balance. Because once this goes in, there's not much we can do beyond that point. It's if you're going to tweak something and taste, it's better to do it this phase.
So I'm looking for what your mom says to watch for
Not
the
yet.
oil separating. Okay. It's not separating yet.
All right, here's the part it's still missing. It's missing the tanginess, and it needs a little bit more salt. Now bear in mind the vegetables are salted, so I don't want to overdo it. But it's got all those other components in there, and I can taste the fennel in there also. This is going to be fantastic.
Arya's going to be so excited. This is one of her favorite dishes at Chai Pani.
Yeah, it's about 2 or 3 minutes away from getting to where I feel like it's thickened and ready to roll, and the oil will start separating on the edges. Okay, while that's happening, I've got my bun buttered, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this pan on and just griddle them in the pan. Coming up in a minute.
You got to tell people about the Pav Bhaji stand in Pune.
Which one? No, the one in no, that's the vada pav guy.
Oh, that's Vada Pav.
That's the other Pav.
The famous
That's
guy
other
is the Vada
yeah,
Pav
it's
guy.
the Vada
Okay.
Pav guy. The Pav Bhaji guy, though, in Juhu Beach, we found the Pav Bhaji maestro. It wasn't just how good the Pav Bhaji was; it was the performance. This guy was no-look slicing tomatoes.
I remember your video
perfectly,
with that, yeah.
decimating them, and just looking directly at the camera, smiling with the cheapest, little shittiest Indian knife with the plastic handle and the barely serrated edge. Just master of knife work. No look, slicing
that
the
was-
vegetables directly onto the pan. It was like watching a cascade, a waterfall of tomato onto the pan.
That was pretty amazing. So that was Juhu Beach in Bombay.
That was Juhu Beach in Bombay. And not all the street vendors in Juhu Beach are, necessarily good. People seem to think like, oh, street food in India must be amazing everywhere you go. No, it's like, it's like any street food. You're going to find crappy vendors, you're going to find great vendors. But usually the good ones have the big line and the big crowd around them. All right, almost there. Any other questions? Comments?
Let's see, did I miss any of these questions? I think you did talk about freezing the bhaji.
Freezing the Pav Bhaji. Let's get this in. We're so close. 2 more minutes. Just 2 more minutes. It'll make all the difference. So now the pav itself, since we were talking about it, the closest equivalent I've been able to find here is a Hawaiian sweet roll. And it's about the right size.
Outside of the one that you get from the Spicewalla for chai pani.
If you can get actual authentic pav made by Spicewalla here, yeah. But if you're just in the middle of Kansas somewhere and you're looking for a Spicewalla, hey, maybe a Spicewalla in Kansas for all you know.
Probably is.
But just go to the grocery store and look for the King's brand Hawaiian sweet rolls, and those work well. Put a little butter on the inside and make sure you griddle them. Oh, pan's hot. Let's get my buttered buns in.
So you just had a little butter on the...
I just had a little butter on the inside of the bun, just to give it a little... I mean, usually these things, these things can quite often be just absolutely soaking wet with butter, but we're going to have so much butter going on over here, there's no need to do that.
Someone's asking, so you would only use the starchy vegetables in this? Would something like broccoli work or something that's not starchy?
I should...
There's your answer.
No broccoli.
This is interesting. Would it work with challah or brioche?
Yeah, absolutely. The
That kind of
last
Swedish,
hamburgers, which were supposed to be done on the hamburgers are supposed to also be done on a pav. I used a brioche bun, and it was delicious. Brioche is phenomenal. Challah bread, phenomenal. Soft white bread. Just make sure you griddle it.
It's a little sweet. There's a little sweetness to the pav.
Yeah, there's a little bit of sweetness to the pav. They absolutely use sugar in making that pav. All right, this is almost done.
Not sweet, but just like a slight essence of sweet.
Sweet.
Aw, somebody has a chai pani sweatshirt.
Oh, that's awesome. I know there's new sweatshirts that started shipping, and people have been sending me pictures of all the
so sweet.
The 2 Tigers sweatshirts. Okay, let's try. Tangy, fantastic. I'm gonna hit it with some lime juice right now. And I'm gonna add that extra tang in there. So we're gonna put in basically the juice of 3/4 of a lime.
Because that's what we had left over?
Because that's what I left. Well, I took the end off to save for the plating, and the remaining 3/4 of the juice of the lime is going in here right now.
Oh yeah, I've seen green beans too. Somebody's saying
yes,
they've seen green beans in
peas
there.
And peas.
So that would be the one green thing that works.
So the peas, the only thing with the peas, what I've noticed is that those get added at the end and not mashed in. So they're added sort of not a garnish. They're cooked in at the end, but they're not smushed.
Not smushy.
They're not smushed in. So I've definitely seen Pav Bhaji with peas like that. All right, guys. And now.
What's the
the
best?
time has come for us to put the vegetables.
Wait, you have to stop singing opera long enough so that people can ask their questions. Your people have questions. Okay, what would be the best drink to pair with a Pav Bhaji? You're drinking bourbon.
Bourbon, baby.
Is that the best drink? What about a limca? Somebody's asking about limca.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up has that, it's the Indian Coca-Cola, but it has that little funky spiciness to it that I think ice cold would be perfect with Pav Bhaji. A nice crisp cold lager would probably go phenomenal. But it's so heavy, so rich, so buttery. Don't drink like, lassi or a yogurt-based drink or anything that's heavy. You want light and crisp. So a lager, a kolsch, a thumbs up. Yes.
You're making me hungry.
All right, babe. Here we go. Vegetables in.
Chai. Somebody's saying drink chai.
Of course you can have chai.
Chai.
That goes without saying.
Chai goes in everything.
There's no need to even question. That's, I'm giving you suggestions outside of chai. That's like saying if the sky's not blue, what color should it be? All right, guys. So
you're just like folding in.
I'm just folding it in, and because the potatoes are cooked and we've let the tomatoes cook all the way through, we're essentially just finishing this off now. We're just making sure it's all melded together. And now for people, hopefully this is starting to look like the Pav Bhaji that they're used to seeing. If it doesn't, there's only one thing missing. It's another slab of butter on it, which we're going to absolutely add.
Really?
Oh, heck yeah! Utterly butterly delicious. And it's got to be, salted Amul butter is the butter of choice. Okay, but chaat masala. That is the last remaining item here, and we're going to put it in to finish cooking. And I'm going to put a teaspoon of chaat masala in here. Now, at Chai Pani, we actually put the discrete ingredients as well as chaat masala. We put amchur powder, that green mango powder, for the zing, and we put the black rock salt, kala namak as we call it, for the funk, and then we put a little chaat masala to finish. But here, since I don't have those two, and Spicewalla doesn't sell them individually, but what Spicewalla does sell is chaat masala. And actually, this particular chaat masala is a collaboration with Priya Krishna's Indianish book, and it's available as part of a collection. You can buy it individually, or you can buy it as part of the Indianish collection, which has chaat masala in it, with a couple of other spices, and you can also get the book. And for all I know, Priya may have a recipe for Pav Bhaji in the book. All right, so the chaat masala's in, and that's going to give it that final, je ne sais quoi, that little funk that happens with a delicious Pav Bhaji in the streets. I mean, look at this. Look how it's just separating from the sides. All that butter's in there. And speaking of butter, oh yeah, that's done. Speaking of butter, let's get more butter.
Someone's asking if you would pair this with anything. I mean, not pair it, top it with anything like a melty cheese or mozzarella. Or
I mean, a melty cheese could be fun. I don't think it needs it. It's just so rich and decadent, and the flavors are so amazing. You really don't need anything else. Here's what you top it with. I'll show you. Butter.
If you didn't get the message already,
right.
It's
so you're gonna add a
buttery.
little butter here now to give it that final sort of gloss at the end there. And I mean, I'm not kidding. In India, honey, I mean, literally, I've seen guys shade slabs of butter to finish it where the entire surface is white, and then the butter just slowly starts melting through.
Whoa.
Okay, taste test along the way. This is going to be incendiary. God.
He's so excited.
It's so good, honey. You know what it is? More butter. No, I'm just joking. I'm going to give it just a hint more chaat masala, just a hint.
So if you were serving this, would you serve it as a main dish or is this a side dish?
It's a street food dish. So it's
Right.
kind of like
It
saying
stands
should pizza
alone.
be the main dish or pizza should be the side dish, or like should a hot dog be the main dish? I don't know what an American equivalent would be. It stands alone. I mean, we're going to have this for dinner tonight.
This is it.
This is it. We're going to eat this with lots of...
One pot meal for us.
We're going to get a carb intake for the week
Yes.
with the bread.
Totally.
And we have one pot. Yeah, it's going to be a one pot meal. I mean, hey, it's got all of your food groups, right? It's got your butter. It's
I
got
think
your
the only thing green
bread.
in it,
Huh?
the only thing green in it you put was the cilantro stems.
And the bell peppers.
Oh, bell peppers. Okay, right,
And a
right,
little
right.
chili, and a little green chili in there. All right, guys, Pav Bhaji done at home in a non-stick pot in less than 40 minutes. That's because I was blabbing most of the time. Let's plate up.
Street style. You got your Indian street plate.
Got my Indian street plate. I mean, at Chai Pani, we serve this in the little 4-compartment plate, so that we can put the buns on one side and everything on the other side. All right. Let's get a nice helping spoon. Let's do it this way.
Yes, a couple of people have mentioned putting peas in it.
Yes,
It's a nice
exactly.
flavor profile.
Yeah, it does add it. I'm not a big fan of peas. I don't even put it in my... I mean, I'm a fan of peas. I'm just not a fan of peas in certain things. I don't like peas in samosas, and I don't like peas in Pav Bhaji, just a thing. But I do love them in, aloo matar gobi. Or,
You're not anti.
I'm not anti-peas.
Peas.
No. I'm anti-peas. Here's some pow.
Yeah, totally. People are saying that are familiar with the street version of this, that it would be dripping even more with butter in the street version.
But hey, don't worry. I've got you covered, street folk peoples. I got you covered.
Look at this.
Guess what? We're going to put some more of it. So we're going to have our little, even more butter going on there. Boom, boom, boom.
What?
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. You're going to put the onions. Going to hit it with the cilantro.
That's indulgent.
Hey, it's street food snack. It's like complaining that pizza's indulgent.
You gotta just go for it.
And a little wedge of lime. and Pav Bhaji done. I sound like Gordon Ramsay, don't I? Bangers and mash. Done. F you. Alright guys, there it is, Pav Bhaji. Let's show you guys how to eat the Pav Bhaji. Because I really feel like most everybody at home needs a primer on how to eat. Oh, there it is. This is spoon looking for Pav Bhaji. Just joking, I just can't wait to dig in. Alright, wow. Nice lump of bhaji. Get some of that butter on there. Get some of the onions on there. Oh, hit it with the squeeze of lime. In fact, hit all of it with the squeeze of lime. And
Wow, he almost got the whole piece in his mouth. That's an art form.
you know, on any given day, somebody could convince me that a vada pav is the best Bombay street food, or a Pav Bhaji is the best Bombay street food. But today,
Pav Bhaji.
vote goes to Pav Bhaji. This is amazing. There's one last ingredient that I just realized this took a bite that we didn't add, and that is Garam Masala. And here's the thing. This is controversial as far as I'm concerned. To me, Pav Bhaji is supposed to be tomatoey, tangy, and very Maharashtrian. It doesn't need Garam Masala, which adds cinnamon and clove and black pepper and all that and so on and so forth. But quite often when I've had Pav Bhaji, there's always been a little Garam Masala in there. And as I've told you guys in the past, Garam Masala is a finishing masala. So right there at the end, if you want to add a little Garam Masala into your pan, you can go ahead
That
and
was
finish
just like
it
a
that way.
pinch.
Just literally a pinch. And that's a personal preference. You can add more. I just don't want to overpower this with sort of the aromatics of the Garam Masala, because I really want it to be funky, rich, tangy, and have sort of that clean, buttery taste and flavor profile. But the other thing I would highly recommend is to add a little chaat masala to your Pav Bhaji also, as you finish it
After
off.
you've plated it.
After you plated it.
And what about chopped green chili? Someone's asking about that.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. I would have put it, but you know, Chapani Mom would have.
He's trying to be nice to me.
Trying to be
but-
so nice to Chapani Mom. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Please try this at home. Let me know how it turns out. Go ahead and tag it at Spicewalla or at Meherwan Irani. And I hope you enjoy this dish. I mean, it really is, looked like a lot of work, but it's really simple to do. And it truly is one of the iconic dishes of India. People often ask me, like, what does it take to be a good cook? And my answer always is, develop a great palate. That's the #1 step. Try everything and make sure that when you try something that you do your best to try the best version of it you've ever had. Because that memory, that cellular memory of the flavor and the taste will stay with you for the rest of your life. And when you decide to cook that dish, you will know how it's supposed to taste, and you won't rest until it gets to that point. Every item on the Chapani menu, that's how I've approached it. That's how I'm trying to approach it at home. You won't have hits every time. You may have some misses, but at least you know what it's supposed to taste like. And this is my memory of the best Pav Bhaji I've ever had. And every time I cook it, that's what I'm trying to capture. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for following. See you guys next time. Thank you, Chapani Mom. Good evening.
Bye,
And let's say
everybody.
goodbye with a little chat.
Cheers.